Okay, so we're going to continue with the product and quotient rule that we learned yesterday. The product rule has to do with multiplication, and it says that you would have to multiply the bases and add the exponents. So let's go ahead and write that just for review. So product rule, you multiply bases, add exponents. The quotient rule, you divide the bases and you subtract the exponents. So sometimes they'll give you area and volume problems with expressions with exponents instead of like just regular numbers on the lengths and widths and heights. So we're going to practice those on this video, and then you'll have a handout, and that'll be your homework for today. So let's go ahead and start with example 1. So say I give you a rectangle whose length measures 5 x squared y z cubed, and whose width measures 3x y cubed z squared. And I want to find the area. Well, area, hopefully you remember, of any rectangle can be found by simply doing length times width. So you would take the length, which is all of this, and multiply it times the width. So because it's a multiplication, that means that you're going to follow the product rule. So then you take your bases, 5 times 3, well that's 15, and then you add the exponents each letter at a time. So x, and then you take this 2 plus this 1, well that's 3, then the y, 1 plus 3, that's 4, and then the z, 3 plus 2, and that's 5. And that's the area of this rectangle. And then sometimes they'll give you a picture, or sometimes they'll just say length equals this, width equals that, and you just do length times width. Another type of area problem that you will encounter is one where the area is already given. So for example, if I give you a rectangle and I give you the width, 2u squared v4, and I tell you that I'm missing the length, but I give you the area. I tell you that the area is equal to, I don't know, let's say 64 u to the 5th power v9 and w2. And I want to know the missing side, the length. So we know that area can be found by doing length times width. But if you know the length and you know the total, then how would you find the missing side? How would you find what's the opposite of multiplication? Well, it's division, right? You would have to think of, okay, well, I have my total. Let me divide so I can find my missing side. So you do the opposite. So you're going to take your area, put it on top because it's the total, and now you're going to use the quotient rule. And the quotient rule, if you remember, it states that you must divide or simplify your bases. So 64 divided by 2, that's 32. And you have to subtract each letter. So for the u, it'd be 5 minus 2, that's 3. For the v, it'd be 9 minus 4, well that's 5. And then if you notice in this case, I don't have a w that I can subtract it with, so I just bring that one down. So there's your length, the missing side. So those are the two different types of area problems you can find or you're going to encounter. Now let's go over volume. So volume is for three-dimensional shapes, usually prisms and cubes. That's what they'll mostly give you. So for example, if I have a rectangular prism, whose length is 3xyz squared, whose width is 2x squared yz, and whose height is 4y cubed z. And I ask you to find the volume. Well, volume can be found by doing length times width times height. So you basically multiply all your three dimensions. So again, what are you following? Well, you're following the product rule. So you're going to take your bases and you're going to multiply them, all three of them, because it says we got to multiply our bases. So 3 times 2, well, that's 6. And 6 times 4, that's 24. And you add your exponents. So the x, I have 1 here, I have 2 here, that's 3, and none over here, so just 3. The y, I have 1 here, 1 here, that's 2, plus 3, that's 5. And the z, 2 plus 1 is 3, plus 1 is 4. So there's your volume. And just like in the area problem, sometimes they'll give you the total already. They'll give you the volume and you'll be missing one of the sides. So let's see what this one will look like. So if I say length is 4s cubed tu squared, width is 3t squared u cubed. I don't give you the height, but I tell you that the volume is equal to 36 S5 T6 and U5. So since we know that volume is equal to length times width times height, and you know 2 of these, okay, so it'll look like this. Length times the width times some mystery height that I don't know equals to your volume, 36 s to the 5th T6 U 5th. Okay, so this times this has to give you that. So then what would we do? Well, again, we would have to do product rule right here to figure out how much do we have already. Well, let's do the product rule. Product rule says multiply your bases. 4 times 3, that's 12. S, how many? 3 plus nothing, so just 3. T, 1 plus 2, that's 3. And then U's, 2 plus 3 is 5. So we have that already. And we know that we want this. So then what do? Well, we do quotient. We take our total and divide it by what we got right now through the product rule. So what does the quotient rule say? To divide your bases, so 36 divided by 12, that's 3. 5 minus 3, that's 2 s's. 6 minus 3, that's 3 t's. And 5 minus 5, oh, well, that's u to the 0 power. And we learned yesterday that u to the 0 power is just a 1. So then all of this times 1 is just all of this. So this was your missing side. Your height, your missing height was 3s squared t cubed. So there you have it. This is how you use the product and quotient rule to answer some area and volume problems. So you're going to use these notes to try to solve the problems for homework.